What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Back with the Boxingego review of HBO's 24/7 Canelo Kirkland. I must say, after watching this, excellent episode, and I am excited. I was already excited, but after watching this, I'm really pumped for this particular fight. I want to give my breakdown. The link is in the description in case you want to watch it. Bravo, shout out to HBO. And I knew this for a while, but I gotta say, nobody's fucking with HBO. Showtime, the All Access and stuff, they don't compete like in the grand scheme of all of them. I really like Inside Mayweather Pacquiao, that particular one, but by and large, just HBO, their pacing, their dialogue, and the writing of the storylines, they encompass the different emotions. They'll have great training montages. They'll have drama, funny moments. It's just well put together. They really do it like a movie, and it's 30 minutes long. I tell you guys this all the time. I do the video editing, and I really pay attention and hone in on little things like the angles they choose, the clips that they use with the audio that they're doing, how it fades in and out, and they just do a phenomenal job. So it opens up with Canelo shirts being made at a printing press, and the underlying theme is really just kind of the contrast to life, how Canelo's a big rock star, very popular. Kirkland's more low key, has some trouble with the law. They show a Canelo montage, then a Kirkland montage, then they show Canelo's home in San Diego. And I must say, people forget this because Canelo's pretty mature, but Canelo's only 24 and he's living in looks like a Bruce Wayne type of mansion. And just to think of what he's achieved at his age is pretty impressive because a lot of people don't have the maturity that he shows as a fighter. Another thing that I like that I thought was real tasteful. Sometimes you get this HBO Showtime rivalry. Yes, they put May Pac on together as a joint effort, but usually they don't really do anything that helps the other side, if you will. And obviously Floyd Mayweather is currently with Showtime. They showed a segment and they showed the Canelo versus Mayweather fight, some highlights, and they gave Canelo's side, it was Chepo Reynoso, and he was giving his opinion on the fight and Canelo's opinion on the fight. And they were brutally honest. They kept it real, and I appreciate that from a viewer standpoint. Because sometimes, like I said, since Mayweather's on Showtime, they could have just cut that whole excerpt out and just said fuck him. You know what I mean? Let's not talk about this because they didn't want to or give the other side shine. But Canelo's side was very honest. They said Chepo said specifically, and it was I was surprised that he said it just like candidly. He said the fight got to a point with Mayweather and Canelo that they knew they needed a knockout to win. He said fighting Mayweather was like being blindfolded at a party with a piñata and you just can't hit it. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know where you're swinging at and stuff like that. He also said that he looks like he's about to hit high, then he'll go low. So just kind of showing the craftiness and the trickiness of dealing with a guy like Mayweather. Canelo says no one's prepared to lose, but he learned something from it. Then he also said that he feels like a caged lion. And I like this type of attitude from a 24-year-old. I think a lot of people like because girls like Canelo and stuff, and he's kind of the pretty boy type. They don't give him credit. I think Canelo has a lot more dog in him than people give him credit for, because he's a clean cut dude. Some people don't really analyze that, but I think he has the desire to truly be a fighter, and I think this particular fight might show us that because Kirkland's style is not the style to play with or to underestimate things like that. But Canelo seems like he's really hungry to be a fighter, like he wants to improve. I think Golden Boy early on in his career, they needed to take the titty out of his mouth and stop spoon feeding him softer touch opponents, past prime guys like Mosley and Baldomir. And once they did that, now they're letting him loose and giving him tougher fights. And his schedule since Austin Trout has definitely picked up. One thing that was kind of weird to me is Canelo looks like he was working on his English. There's like this whole montage where Canelo says, I want to make history in boxing, and I'm sure I will. It just sounded weird, and then they just paused and showed the camera. I don't know. It was like an awkward silence after he said it. I was expecting something else, and they just focused the cameras on it. It was just weird. Reminded me of when he was like, I was born ready. And like, okay, now what? So it's just a weird moment. Then one thing that I think they could have done, but I understand why they didn't. They didn't really talk about Canelo lore. They just said, oh, they breezed back past it real quick. They didn't talk about the controversy. But obviously, if you're trying to sell a fight, you don't want to revisit that particular fight. Losing to the best pound for pound number one guy is one thing, but they didn't want to waste time in the episode talking about Canelo lore, which I wish they did, because that's the fight he's coming off, and they could have talked about and showed clips about that particular fight, but they chose not to even really talk it. They kind of skimmed over it. That's one thing I noticed. Then they show Canelo. They talk about, he says he came from the bottom, a rocky lifestyle in Texas. They talk about his jail stints, him training with Ann Wolf. They even had Ann Wolf as a guest interviewer. I thought that was real cool. I really fuck with Ann Wolf. I like her. Brutally honest, former fighter. She knows her stuff. They even show Ann Wolf. She was showing some early HBO clips of her training when she was with Kirkland, and he's backpedaling. She's driving a truck with a rig on it and a punching bag, and he's punching the bag as she drives forward, and he's backpedaling. She used to have him doing some crazy ass workouts, and that's what I really like about Ann Wolf, and that's why a lot of people say, like, oh, without Wolf in his corner, he doesn't have a chance against Canelo. So I liked how they included Ann Wolf into this. They also talk about how he got rid of Ann Wolf, and then they had the Ishida loss. And this is what I said in my prediction. Make sure you check out my Canelo Kirkland prediction. We'll see if I'm right on Saturday. I picked Canelo, and one of the statements that I made in the video is it's very hard for me to place my bet with someone I don't trust. And not that I don't like Kirkland. I like Kirkland, but I don't trust his actions. He's more of a loose cannon. Canelo just seems pretty focused, even in his controversial fights, or like the lower fight or the fight with Mayweather where he clearly lost. He seems like he wants to do it, even if he doesn't know how to cut off the ring or whatnot. I don't think he lost it mentally, so to speak. But Kirkland, he just seems a bit more all over the place, and that's one thing I said in my prediction that makes it hard for me to place my bet with Kirkland. So I picked Canelo to win this particular fight, and then there's things that I've seen in this episode that make me comfortable in that prediction, where Ann Wolf, she said she was expecting a call from him, thinking like, oh, we got the Canelo fight. She was going to hear from him. They had a performance with Glenn Tapia that I thought Kirkland looked real good in. And she said she never heard from him, heard through the grapevine that he's working with some other team. And she never got an answer as to why. Like, to me, that's just erratic, weird behavior. Like, from a professional standpoint, it seems like someone you've worked with for years, you would at least notify him like, hey, I'm releasing you, or I'm not going to use you for this particular camp. I'm going to try someone new out. Thank you for your past services. Something like that. You know what I mean? When it's somebody you've worked with for that long. But she said she doesn't even know why he elected to go with a new team. So behavior like that. And there's also an interview with Kirkland, and the HBO guys are asking him questions, and he was like, you keep asking me about Ann. It's starting to frustrate me. Starting to frustrate the shit out of me. I don't want to get upset. Yeah, skip that shit. And it was funny from like a viewer perspective, but it just makes me wonder into the mind of James Kirkland, like what exactly, where is his head at? Another thing I noticed, Kirkland's speech sounds really slurred. I don't know if I'm over analyzing that, but then they get to James Kirkland and some of his training with his new team. They actually played, this is another thing I like about HBO, they played a 50 Cent G-Unit song. The soundtrack seems like better than Showtime. Showtime, it seems like they get a lot of bootleg, like rap songs, if they're going to put a rap song in it, like songs you never heard of. But anyway, they're doing the strength and conditioning with Kirkland. And it seems like everybody that trains with Kirkland, they always like hook him up to all kinds of equipment and have him doing hella stuff, like a guinea pig or something. Like they just try out different workouts with them. But he's on the football campus. He has some kind of parachute and harness, and he's running. Looks like he's training hard. Then there's another funny moment where Kirkland's new trainer, his nephew, came in, and he's a Hispanic Mexican kid with red hair. And Kirkland was like, oh shit, is that Canelo? Canelo, what's up, Canelo? And I thought that was a pretty funny moment. Last thing, they showed Canelo having a good time, being the star that he is. He was shooting a commercial, so he was dancing. And then they show the flip side of that, James Kirkland. He says, people don't see me on YouTube videos sparring. People don't see me filming commercials and doing autographs, but don't think I'm not training. I'm behind the scenes, and I've just been working. So I may not be all in your face on the big screen, but I'm out here working. So we'll see if that statement holds true. I'm going to keep my initial prediction like I always do. I don't really like to switch up. But I enjoyed the episode a lot. Again, HBO does a phenomenal job with the 24/7 series. Great shots, great perspective, the pacing, the different elements that they add to it. They really know how to mix it all together to make an enjoyable show. 30 minutes long. And let me know what you think of Canelo Kirkland. I'm really excited for this particular fight, and this got me hyped even more. That's my review. Make sure you like my video as always. Hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video, it's Ego signing off.